The council chamber stretched so far in every direction that the walls disappeared into shadows. Ambassador James Holland stood at the center of a circular platform that floated above nothing. Around him, rising up like the tiers of an ancient amphitheater, sat beings from across the galaxy. Some had scales that shimmered in colors humans had no names for. Others existed as clouds of gas contained in transparent shells. A few were so alien that James could not even determine where their eyes might be. High above, suspended in a sphere of liquid silver that constantly changed shape, was Chancellor Vornak. The being's voice came from everywhere at once, vibrating through the air itself. Human representative, you stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your species' violations. James kept his breathing steady. 3 months of preparation had not made this moment less terrifying. He was one man facing the combined authority of civilizations that had mastered interstellar travel while humanity was still discovering fire. But he had his orders. He had his strategy. And most importantly, he had humanity's absolute refusal to be treated as inferior. "I am honored to stand before the council," James said. His voice echoed across the vast chamber. "Earth sent me to address any concerns and to establish formal diplomatic relations." A sound like grinding rocks filled the chamber. James realized it was laughter from a massive stone-like creature in the third tier. "Relations? Your kind does not qualify for relations, human. You qualify only for judgment." Chancellor Vornak's silver form rippled. "The violations are clear. Human colony vessels entered the restricted zone. 7 settlements were established on worlds that fall under Council protection. This represents aggressive expansion in violation of the accords that govern all civilized species." James had studied the accords for months. The documents were thousands of pages long, written by species with lifespans that stretched for centuries. They were designed to be incomprehensible to younger races. "With respect, Chancellor, our star charts showed no restrictions in that region. We believe the worlds to be unclaimed." "Ignorance is not innocence," said a delegate whose body resembled a cluster of crystals. "The restricted zone has been protected for 8,000 cycles. Your failure to know this is evidence of your species' inadequacy." "Then educate us," James replied. "Provide us with proper charts. Give us access to the complete accords. Help us understand the laws you expect us to follow." "You ask for what you have not earned," Vornak said. The silver sphere descended slightly, moving closer to James. "The Council does not assist those who show such blatant disregard for order. Your colonies will be dismantled. Your people will be returned to Earth, and your species will face consequences for this transgression." James felt his heart pounding. This was the moment everything depended on. What consequences? The chamber fell silent. Even the ambient sounds of breathing and movement from hundreds of alien species seemed to stop. Vornak's form solidified into something resembling a judge's stern face. "Earth will pay tribute to this council. For 300 cycles, you will provide what we demand. This is the price for your violation." "What form will this tribute take?" "Labor, your most valuable resource. Earth will send 10,000 workers every cycle. They will serve on council worlds wherever they are needed. Mining, construction, agriculture. Whatever work requires bodies and effort. This is how primitive species learn their place in the galactic order." James understood immediately. They were demanding slavery. Not openly, of course. The accords probably had provisions against outright enslavement. But forced labor dressed up as tribute was the same thing. He thought of the colonists who would be uprooted from homes they had built. He thought of the families who would be torn apart. He thought of the message this would send to humanity, that in the eyes of the galaxy, humans were nothing but cheap labor. "I need to consult with my government," James said carefully. "A decision of this magnitude requires Earth's full leadership. You have 7 days, Vornik announced. Return here with Earth's agreement to these terms. Refuse, and we will enforce compliance. The Council has fleets that could end your civilization in hours. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The threat hung in the air like poison. James bowed slightly and turned to leave. As he walked the long path to the exit, he heard the murmurs of the alien delegates. They were satisfied. They had put the upstart humans in their place. They had reminded Earth that in the vast galaxy, humanity was nothing but children playing with technology. They barely understood. What they did not know was that humanity had been expecting exactly this. Director Sarah Kim, head of Earth's Intelligence Division, had predicted the Council would try to subordinate Earth through some form of tribute or restriction. The whole diplomatic mission had been designed to trigger exactly this response. Because humans had learned long ago that sometimes you have to let your enemy think they had won before you revealed your true strategy. 7 days later, James returned to the Council chamber. This time he brought 2 assistants, both carrying data tablets. The Council reconvened, thousands of beings settling into their positions with the casual arrogance of absolute power. Ambassador Holland, Vornik intoned. Has Earth made its decision? James smiled. It was not a friendly expression. We have, Chancellor. Earth accepts the Council's terms. We will provide 10,000 workers per cycle, as requested. We are prepared to begin immediately. Surprise rippled through the chamber. They had expected argument. They had expected desperate negotiation. This immediate acceptance seemed wrong somehow. However, James continued, we must ensure complete transparency, as required by your own accords. The workers we provide will be selected based on specific criteria. They represent humanity's capacity for labor under difficult conditions. They are individuals who have already demonstrated their ability to work in challenging environments. One of his assistants activated a holographic display. Names and data began scrolling in the common trade language. These are the first 10,000 workers. Each one has been fully documented as required by Council regulations. A delegate with multiple eyes leaned forward to examine the data. These individuals have criminal records, violent offenses, long imprisonment terms. Some are listed as serving life sentences. Correct, James said. His smile widened. You requested workers, Chancellor. Earth is providing our most experienced labor force, our prison populations. Each one has volunteered for off-world service as an alternative to their remaining sentence. Murderers, thieves, terrorists, and criminals of every type. All fully capable of the hard labor you require. All eager for a chance to leave Earth's prisons. The chamber exploded. Delegates rose from their seats. The air filled with sounds of outrage in 100 different languages. Vornik's silver form boiled and churned like an angry sea. You dare insult this council. The Chancellor's voice shook the entire chamber. You would send criminals as tribute? You requested workers, James replied calmly. You specified no other requirements. These individuals are capable of labor. Many have valuable skills. Our most successful mining operations on Earth are staffed by prison workers. I assumed the Council would appreciate our efficiency. This is mockery. This is compliance. The accords state that tribute, once offered and accepted, cannot be refused without specific cause. These workers meet all your stated requirements. They are human. They are capable of labor. They are available immediately. If you reject them, you violate your own laws. The second assistant projected legal text across the chamber. Section 47 of the Accords. Tribute accepted by the Council cannot be denied, except in cases where the tribute itself poses a direct threat to Council security. Our legal analysis shows that these workers pose no threat beyond what any labor population presents. James watched Vornik's form shift through a dozen different shapes, each one more agitated than the last. The Chancellor had been outmaneuvered, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The Council had created their elaborate system of laws to control younger species. Now those same laws had been turned against them. "This matter will be reviewed," Vornik finally said, the words forced out like stones. "The workers will be examined. If they prove unsuitable, there will be severe consequences." "We eagerly await your review," James said. He bowed again and turned to leave. Behind him, he heard the chaos of the council dissolving into angry debates as the massive doors closed. James allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Earth had just sent 10,000 of its most dangerous criminals into the heart of council civilization. People who had nothing to lose. People who were experts at surviving in hostile environments. People who would learn everything about council systems, find every weakness, and exploit every opportunity. The council wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They were about to learn one instead. The real game had just begun. The transport ships carrying Earth's first tribute workers arrived at the Council Processing Sta. Tie-in 6 weeks later. Commander Thalen watched through observation screens as 10,000 humans in gray uniforms filed into holding areas. Thalen was Corfin, a species that resembled upright reptiles with iridescent scales. He had overseen tribute processing for 40 cycles. He had never seen workers like these. The humans moved with a dangerous confidence. They did not shuffle or look defeated. They observed everything with sharp attention. When guards directed them toward processing lines, several humans simply stood still until forced to move. 3 fights broke out in the first hour. The guards stunned the fighters unconscious, but the other humans just watched with interest rather than fear. "These are criminals?" Thalen's assistant asked. She was young for a Corthan, barely 30 cycles old. "They seem very aggressive." "Earth sent its prison population," Thalen explained. He pulled up files on his data screen. This one, designated Marcus Reed, serving a life sentence for killing 17 people. This one, designated Nicole Cross, imprisoned for destroying an entire city block with explosives. This one, designated Anton Volkov, leader of a criminal organization that controlled half of Earth's largest city. "And Earth thinks we will accept these individuals as tribute? According to the Accords, we must. They meet all stated requirements." Thalen felt uneasy. In 40 cycles of processing tribute, he had received farmers, laborers, and craftspeople from species that accepted council authority. These humans were different. They looked at the station, not like prisoners, but like soldiers studying a battlefield. The processing continued for 3 days. The humans were sorted by destination. 2,000 to the mining world of Drachma, 1,000 to the agricultural planet Taraxis, 800 to the industrial complexes of Velner Prime, and so on, scattered across dozens of council worlds. Each group seemed to accept their assignments with strange calm. On the morning of the 4th day, the first groups departed. Thalen watched the transport heading to Drachma leave the station. Aboard were Marcus Reed and his assigned group. The humans had been given basic equipment and instructions. They would arrive at the mining colonies and begin work under local supervision. Everything seemed proper. Thalen tried to ignore the feeling that Earth had just delivered a weapon directly into Council territory. On Drachma, the mining supervisor Grax received his new workers with satisfaction. Grax was a Thurin, massive and strong, with skin like stone. He had managed mining operations for 20 cycles. Labor was always a challenge. The work was dangerous and difficult. Few species wanted to dig deep into hostile rock for rare minerals. But tribute workers had no choice. "You will work shaft 12. Grax told the humans through a translator. The shaft goes down 3 kilometers. The rock is unstable. The air is toxic. You will wear protective suits at all times. You will work 12 hours per day. You will meet production quotas or face punishment. Do you understand? Marcus Reed stepped forward. He was tall for a human, with scars on his face and arms. We understand, but we have questions about equipment and safety protocols. Tribute workers do not ask questions. We do, because if the equipment fails, we die. If the protocols are wrong, we die. We are here to work, not to be murdered by incompetence. So either you answer our questions, or we refuse to enter the shaft. Grax felt anger rising. No tribute worker had ever spoken to him like this. You will follow orders or be punished. Punish me then. Marcus crossed his arms. I am already serving a life sentence on Earth. What more can you do? Kill me? I have killed more people than you have managed workers. Pain? I have survived torture. Isolation? I spent 3 years in solitary confinement. You have no leverage over someone who has already lost everything. The other humans stood behind Marcus in silent support. Grax realized with cold certainty that the human was right. Traditional methods of controlling workers would not work on people who had already endured the worst, punishments their own civilization could deliver. What do you want? Grax asked reluctantly. Proper equipment, detailed safety information, reasonable work schedules. Treat us like skilled laborers instead of slaves, and we will work harder than anyone you have ever seen. Treat us like animals, and we will make your life miserable in ways you cannot imagine. Grax considered calling for security, but security would only stun the humans temporarily. Tomorrow they would return with the same demands, and the production quotas still needed to be met. The council measured his success by mineral output. If the humans could truly work harder than other species, perhaps cooperation was the pragmatic choice. 12-hour shifts are standard, Grax said, but I will ensure equipment is properly maintained. Safety protocols will be provided. In return, you will meet quotas. Double the quotas, Marcus said. Give us proper tools and information, and we will produce twice what you expect. It seemed impossible, but the human spoke with absolute confidence. Grax agreed. If the humans failed, he could report their inadequacy to the council. If they succeeded, his operation would become the most productive on Drakmar. The humans descended into Shaft 12 the next morning. Grax monitored from the surface. By midday, he noticed unusual activity readings. The humans were not just mining the designated areas. They were exploring side passages, testing rock stability, mapping the entire shaft system. What are they doing? His assistant asked. Learning, Grax said quietly. They are learning everything about this place. By the end of the first week, production from Shaft 12 had tripled. The humans worked with mechanical efficiency, but they also did something no other workers had done. They improved the operation. They redesigned the ore transport system to be faster. They identified weak rock that would have caused collapses. They found new mineral deposits that scanners had missed. Grax reported the success to his superiors. Within days, requests came from other mining operations wanting human workers. But there were only 2,000 humans on all of Drakmar, and demand was growing. In Shaft 12, Marcus gathered his people during a rest period. They sat in a chamber they had carved from waste rock, a space the supervisors did not know about. Status reports, Marcus said. A woman named Alina spoke first. She had been a military engineer before her imprisonment for weapons trafficking. I have mapped 60% of the shaft system. There are ancient tunnels below the current operations. Very old, not made by the Thurin. Ancient tunnels. Marcus leaned forward. Someone was mining here thousands of years ago. The tunnels are sealed but intact. If we can access them, we might find technology or resources. Another human, a man named David, added his report. I have been studying the Thurin supervisors. They are strong but slow. Their technology is basic. Their security systems are poorly designed. If we wanted to take control of this facility, it would be easy. We are not here to take control, Marcus said. Not yet. We are here to learn, to establish ourselves, to become valuable enough that they cannot afford to lose us. Earth sent us with a mission. Make ourselves indispensable. Discover everything we can about Council civilization, and prepare for the day when Earth is ready to expand properly. How long until that day? Elena asked. 300 cycles of tribute, according to the agreement. But I give it less than 10 cycles before everything changes. The Council made a mistake sending us across their territory. They gave us access to their worlds, their technology, their secrets. We just need to be patient and thorough. The humans returned to work. They met their quotas. They exceeded expectations. And in their hidden chambers during rest periods, they shared information, made plans, and slowly built an understanding of Council civilization that no Earth diplomat could have achieved. On Taraxis, the agricultural world, a different scenario unfolded. Nicole Cross and her group had been assigned to crop management. The Taraxians were plant-based beings who cultivated massive farms that fed dozens of Council worlds. They expected the human workers to simply follow instructions and tend assigned fields. Instead, Nicole analyzed the farming techniques and found them inefficient. She proposed changes based on Earth's agricultural science. The Taraxian supervisors dismissed her suggestions. So Nicole and her people implemented the changes in their assigned fields without permission. Crop yields in those fields increased by 40%. The Taraxians noticed. They studied what the humans had done. Some criticized the unauthorized changes. Others wanted to adopt the techniques across all farms. Arguments erupted among the Taraxian administrators. While they argued, Nicole quietly planted additional crops. Seeds from Earth that she had smuggled in her belongings. Small plants that cross-pollinated with Taraxian crops, creating new hybrid varieties. Some hybrids grew faster. Some were hardier. And some produced chemicals that were mildly toxic to Taraxians, but harmless to humans. By the time supervisors discovered the hybrids, they had spread across multiple fields. Removing them would destroy the season's entire harvest. The Taraxians had no choice but to allow the hybrids to remain. Nicole had permanently altered their agricultural ecosystem. On Velner Prime, Anton Volkov and his group worked on construction projects. Massey. Via orbital platforms that would serve as trading stations. The work was dangerous. Several species had died building these platforms. The Velner expected high casualties among the human workers. But Anton had built criminal empires by being smarter than his enemies. He analyzed the construction process and identified every safety flaw. He reorganized his workers into efficient teams. He modified designs to be structurally sound while creating hidden weaknesses that only humans would know about. Escape routes that appeared to be ventilation shafts. Control systems that could be easily sabotaged. Access points to secure areas. The platforms were completed ahead of schedule with 0 casualties. The Velner praised the human workers. They did not realize that those platforms were now compromised in ways that would take years to discover. Across Council space, similar patterns emerged. Humans completed assigned work with impressive efficiency. Then they used their free time to explore, to modify, to improve, and to carefully insert themselves into the infrastructure of Council civilization. Reports flooded back to the Council. The human workers were too effective, too clever, too independent. They were supposed to be controlled labor. Instead, They were becoming integral parts of operations on dozens of worlds. In the council chamber, Chancellor Voynich reviewed the reports with growing alarm. Magistrate Tella, an energy being contained in crystal, offered analysis. The humans are not behaving like tribute workers. They negotiate. They innovate. They demand better conditions. And when those demands are met, they produce results that exceed all expectations. Can we remove them? Voynich asked. Remove 10,000 workers who have become essential to operations on 40 worlds? The economic disruption would be severe. The mining output on Drakmar would drop by half. Taraxis would lose its most productive agricultural teams. Velnir would see construction delays that could last cycles. Then we are trapped. We are learning, Tella corrected. These humans show us what their species is capable of. And if their criminals can achieve this much, imagine what their best people could do. Voynich's silver form churned with agitation. Earth had not sent workers. Earth had sent an invasion force that operated within the letter of the council law while completely violating its spirit. And the worst part was that the council had demanded this. They had created the conditions for their own infiltration. Far below, in the tunnels of Drakmar, Marcus Reed smiled as he read a message from Nicole on Taraxis and Anton on Velnir. The first phase was complete. The humans had established themselves. Now they would expand. 8 months into the tribute period, Ambassador James Holland returned to Earth for the first time since delivering the criminals to Council space. He materialized in a secure government complex, buried beneath what used to be Geneva. Director Kim waited for him in a conference room, with walls that blocked every known form of surveillance. "Welcome home," Kim said. "Though I suspect you feel more at home on that council station by now." James sat heavily in a chair. "The council is panicking. They hold emergency sessions twice a week now. Every report from worlds hosting our people describes the same pattern. Exceptional work. Unauthorized activities. Slow integration into local systems. They know something is wrong, but cannot define exactly what. Show me the numbers." James activated a holographic display. Data filled the air between them. Production statistics from 47 different worlds. Economic impact assessments. Security incident reports. Our people have increased mining output on Drakmar by 300%. Agricultural yields on Taraxis are up 40%. Construction projects on Velnir Prime are finishing months ahead of schedule. The Council cannot remove our workers without crippling their own operations. What about the discoveries? That is the critical part. James pulled up a new set of files. Marcus Reed's team on Drakmar has found extensive ruins beneath the current mining operations. Ancient technology that predates Council civilization. They are calling the original builders the precursors. And here is the interesting part. The technology is keyed to biological and cognitive markers that humans match, but most Council species do not. Kim leaned forward, her eyes sharp with interest. "Explain." The precursors apparently set access restrictions on their technology. Species need to meet certain evolutionary criteria. Tool use, abstract reasoning, specific genetic markers, certain brain structures. The Council species evolved differently. They do not match the criteria. But humans do. We can access precursor systems that have been sealed for thousands of years. How widespread are these ruins? We have found them on 17 worlds so far. Marcus believes they exist on every major Council world. The entire Council civilization is built on top of a far more advanced culture that they either forgot about or deliberately buried. And now humans are digging it all up. Kim stood and paced the room. This changes everything. If we control access to precursor technology, we have leverage the Council cannot counter. What is the status of our secondary objective? The civilian immigration program is working perfectly. We have moved over 3,000 non-criminal specialists to council worlds using commercial transit and family reunification provisions in the Accords. Engineers, scientists, teachers, doctors. They are reinforcing the criminal populations and building actual communities. Are the council authorities noticing? They notice. They complain. But the Accords permit free movement for legitimate purposes. We are exploiting legal channels. By the time they change the laws, we will have established populations large enough to be permanent. Kim stopped pacing and looked directly at James. How long until we can make the formal demand? For recognition of the settlements as independent colonies? James considered. 2 more years minimum. We need the populations larger and the economic integration deeper. But the foundation is solid. When we make the demand, the Council will have only 2 options: grant recognition or face massive economic disruption by trying to remove us. And the military situation? Admiral Chun has positioned the Third Fleet in deep space 3 light years from Council territory. If they attack our settlements, we can respond within hours. The Council knows we have ships out there. They do not know how many or how advanced. Their intelligence is terrible. We deliberately let them see our defensive fleet near Earth, but kept the offensive capabilities hidden. Kim returned to her seat. Vornak has requested a meeting with me. Direct communication, government to government. He wants to negotiate new terms for the tribute arrangement. He wants to regain control. He will offer concessions in exchange for limiting our expansion. Should I meet with him? Yes, but offer nothing. Every concession we make now will be used against us later. The Council is accustomed to species that negotiate from weakness. We need to demonstrate that humanity negotiates from strength, or not at all. The meeting with Chancellor Vornak occurred 2 weeks later in neutral space. A Council diplomatic vessel met an Earth cruiser at coordinates exactly between the 2 territories. Kim, James, and 2 military advisors faced Vornak and 3 Council magistrates in a conference chamber. Vornak's silver form maintained a rigid, formal configuration. Director Kim, thank you for agreeing to this discussion. Chancellor, I am interested to hear your concerns. Concerns is an inadequate term. Your tribute workers are disrupting operations across Council space. They exceed their authority. They make unauthorized modifications to equipment and facilities. They explore areas beyond their assigned work zones. This cannot continue. Kim's expression remained neutral. Are they completing their assigned tasks? Yes, but are they meeting production quotas? They exceed quotas, however. Are they violating any specific provisions of the Accords? Vornak's form rippled with frustration. They violate the spirit of the agreement. Tribute workers should be controlled, manageable, grateful for the opportunity to serve. Your people are none of these things. You requested workers. We provided capable individuals who perform excellent work. If you are dissatisfied with their effectiveness, perhaps we should discuss ending the tribute arrangement early. The Council magistrates shifted uncomfortably. Magistrate Tella spoke for the first time. Director, we both know that removing the human workers now would cause severe economic problems. That is precisely why this situation is untenable. We are becoming dependent on labor from a species we sought to subordinate. Kim allowed a slight smile. Then perhaps subordination was the wrong approach. Earth is prepared to discuss a new arrangement, one based on equality rather than tribute. Impossible, Vornak said sharply. The Council does not negotiate with species that haw. They've been in space for less than a century. You have not earned equality. We have earned it by being indispensable to your economy. We have earned it by discovering technology your species cannot access. We have earned it by demonstrating capabilities that exceed your expectations. The question is whether the Council has the wisdom to acknowledge reality. The meeting continued for 3 hours. Vornek demanded restrictions on human activities. Kim refused every proposal. The council offered minor concessions in exchange for limiting immigration. Kim countered by suggesting Earth might expand the tribute program to include more workers, since the current ones were so successful. Vornek nearly lost coherent form when that suggestion was made. They ended the meeting with nothing resolved. As Kim returned to the Earth vessel, one of her military advisors commented, "You pushed them hard." They could respond with force. They could, Kim agreed. But they won't. They are bureaucrats, not warriors. They will form committees to study the problem. They will debate legal interpretations. They will search for diplomatic solutions. By the time they consider military options, our positions will be unassailable. On Drakmar, Marcus Reed descended into the deepest level of the precursor ruins. His team had spent months carefully excavating the ancient complex. What they found exceeded every expectation. The chamber stretched 200 meters in every direction. Walls covered with crystalline panels that glowed with soft light. Equipment of unknown purpose arranged in precise geometric patterns. And at the center, a cylindrical structure that Elena identified as a data repository. "Can you access it?" Marcus asked. Elena worked at a portable computer interface, trying different communication protocols. "The system is responding to proximity. It recognizes human biological signatures. I think I can establish a connection." She entered a final command. The cylinder pulsed with light. Holographic displays erupted around the chamber. Star charts showing thousands of systems. Technical schematics for devices that made council technology look primitive. Historical records in a language that the human computer systems could somehow translate. What am I seeing? Marcus breathed. The precursors. They were a civilization that spread across this entire region of space about 12,000 years ago. They were explorers, builders, scientists. They created most of the infrastructure that the council species later claimed as their own. What happened to them? According to these records, they transcended, uploaded their consciousness to some kind of higher dimensional network. Before they left, they sealed their technology with genetic and cognitive locks. They wanted to ensure that only species with certain characteristics could access their legacy. And humans have those characteristics. We match their baseline almost perfectly. They were tool users from a challenging world. They valued innovation, aggression tempered by cooperation, and curiosity about the universe. Sound familiar? Marcus looked around at the vast chamber filled with technology that could reshape galactic civilization. We need to share this with all the human settlements. Every team needs to search for precursor sites. We need to map this network before the council realizes what we are doing. They will realize eventually. By then it will be too late. We will control access to technology they desperately need. That control will be our leverage for everything Earth wants to achieve. Over the following months, human teams on 32 different worlds reported finding precursor ruins. The discoveries followed a pattern. The council species had built their civilizations on top of the ancient sites, either ignorant of what lay beneath or deliberately concealing it. Now humans were excavating those foundations and activating systems that had been dormant for millennia. The implications rippled across council space. On Taraxis, Nicole's team found agricultural technology that could triple food production. On Velner Prime, Anton discovered manufacturing systems that operated at molecular precision. On Waterworld Nex, a team led by a former submariner named Thomas located underwater cities with energy systems that made fusion power look primitive. Each discovery was carefully documented and shared through encrypted channels with Earth's government and other human settlements. The council authorities noticed the sea excavations, but initially dismissed them as the humans' strange obsession with digging. By the time they understood what was being discovered, humans had already cataloged hundreds of precursor sites and activated dozens of systems. In the council chamber, Vornik convened yet another emergency session. The humans are accessing ancient technology across our territory. They claim these systems respond only to their biology. Our own scientists confirm this claim. We are facing a situation where a subordinate species controls resources we cannot use. Magistrate Tella's crystalline form pulsed with resigned acceptance. We are past the point of viewing them as subordinate. The humans have established permanent populations on 47 worlds. They have integrated themselves into our economy. They have discovered technology that gives them advantages we cannot counter. We must accept that Earth is now a significant power in this region of space. You suggest surrender? I suggest adaptation. The galaxy is changing. The Council can change with it or become irrelevant. The debate raged for hours. Conservative delegates insisted that military force could still restore Council authority. Progressive voices argued that cooperation was the only viable path forward. And everyone understood that the decision they made would determine the future of galactic civilization. On Earth, in her secure office, Director Kim reviewed the latest reports and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. 4 years ago, the Council had demanded tribute to teach humanity its place. Now that tribute had transformed into an occupation that the Council could neither control nor reverse. The criminals Earth had sent were not prisoners anymore. They were pioneers, discoverers, and the foundation of a new human presence in the galaxy. And everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. Year 4 of the tribute period brought a development that caught even Earth's strategists by surprise. The human settlements were growing not through additional deportations from Earth, but through voluntary immigration that exploited every legal channel the Accords provided. On the waterworld of Nex, Thomas Morgan stood at the edge of his floating platform city and watched a shuttle descend from orbit. Inside were 200 new arrivals from Earth: engineers, biologists, educators, and medical personnel. Not a single one was a criminal. All had come voluntarily, using family reunification provisions in the Accords to join relatives among the tribute workers. Thomas was himself a tribute worker, convicted of leading a submarine smuggling operation that had operated for 15 years before being caught. Now he governed a settlement of over 800 humans who lived in structures they had built from salvaged materials and local resources. The Council authorities on Nex had complained repeatedly. The humans ignored them. Governor Thomas, his deputy said, using the title the settlement had given him, though the Council refused to recognize it. The new arrivals are requesting immediate orientation. Show them to the residential towers. Get them settled. Tomorrow we begin training them on local conditions and precursor technology access. The Council representative sent another formal protest. They say we are exceeding authorized population limits. Thomas smiled. The Accords permit family reunification. Every new arrival has documented family connections to original tribute workers. If the Council has a problem with their own laws, they should change them. Until then, we continue operations as normal. The deputy hesitated. There are rumors that the Council is considering military action, that they might try to forcibly remove us. Let them try. This settlement generates 40% of the protein production for this entire sector. The next native population depends on our fishing techniques. The Council would face economic collapse and local resistance if they attacked us. They know it. These threats are theater designed to make us negotiate from weakness. We will not comply. Similar conversations occurred across human settlements on dozens of worlds. The original 10,000 tribute workers had become the core of communities that now numbered over 30,000. Earth's government had systematically exploited legal immigration channels to reinforce the criminal pioneers with legitimate expertise. The council watched helplessly as human populations grew in territories they had never authorized for human settlement. On Drakmar, Marcus Reed faced a different kind of challenge. The mining company that operated the facilities where humans worked had offered him a formal position. Assistant Operations Director, with authority over all human workers and a seat on the corporate board. You understand what they are doing? Elena asked. She was his most trusted advisor now, her engineering skills having proven invaluable in excavating and activating precursor sites. They are trying to co-opt you, make you part of their system. I understand perfectly, Marcus replied. They think giving me official authority will make me control the other humans according to their interests. What they do not realize is that I will use that authority to protect our people and expand our operations. Will you accept? Yes, but not for the reasons they think. This position gives me access to corporate records, strategic planning, and direct communication with council authorities. Information we can use to position ourselves better when the confrontation comes. You think confrontation is inevitable? Marcus looked at the holographic display showing precursor sites across council space. 74 locations now confirmed. Technology cataloged and partially activated at 42 sites. Human teams learning to use systems that made council technology look like primitive tools. The council cannot allow this to continue indefinitely. At some point, they will have to choose. Accept us as equals or try to remove us by force. We need to be ready for either outcome. The confrontation came sooner than expected. In year 4, month 8, the council convened a full assembly. Every member species sent representatives. The chamber was filled to capacity. Chancellor Vornak called for order in a voice that carried barely contained fury. We gather to address the human situation, Vornak declared. For 4 years, we have watched as tribute workers exceeded their authority, established unauthorized settlements, and accessed technology that was sealed for thousands of years. This assembly must decide how to respond. Ambassador James Holland stood at the human platform, isolated in the center of the vast chamber. Around him, thousands of alien beings radiated hostility. He kept his expression calm and his posture confident. The council speaks of unauthorized settlements, James began, but every human community exists in full compliance with the accords. We speak of tribute workers exceeding authority, yet those same workers have increased productivity across their economies by an average of 37%. We speak of accessing sealed technology, but the precursors themselves designed those seals to open for species that matched specific criteria. Criteria that humans meet and most council species do not. You argue technicalities, the Corthan delegate hissed. You use our laws against their intended purpose. We use your laws as written. If the intent differs from the text, that is a failure of legislation, not human misconduct. Earth has complied with every requirement of the tribute agreement. We have provided workers. Those workers have completed assigned tasks. Everything beyond that is protected activity under the accords you created. Magistrate Tella's crystalline form pulsed with light. Ambassador Holland, let us be direct. The council made an error in judgment. We assumed that tribute workers would be controlled, dependent, and temporary. Your people have proven to be independent, self-sufficient, and permanent. We acknowledge this mistake. The question now is what solution serves both our interests. Earth's position is simple, James stated. Recognize our settlements as legitimate colonies with the same rights as any council member world territories. Grant Earth full membership in the council with voting rights and participation in governance. Or refuse these terms and watch as our settlements declare independence, and Earth defends that independence. The chamber exploded in outrage. Delegates shouted in 100 languages. The air filled with the sounds of creatures expressing anger through methods humans could not begin to interpret. Vornik's silver form expanded to twice its normal size. "You threaten war?" Vornik's voice boomed. "I state reality," James replied calmly. "Our settlements are permanent. Our people will not leave. You can accept this peacefully or face the consequences of trying to remove us by force. And before you dismiss our military capabilities, I suggest you review your intelligence on Earth's deep space fleet deployments. You will find significant gaps in your knowledge." He activated a holographic display. It showed partial data on ship movements, energy signatures detected in deep space, and weapon tests that Earth had deliberately allowed Council sensors to observe. The data was incomplete by design, enough to prove that Earth had military assets beyond what the Council had estimated, but not enough to reveal true capabilities. "You have hidden your strength," accused the Thurin delegate, massive and stone-like. "We have been prudent. Just as I'm certain the Council maintains military assets that are not publicly disclosed. But this assembly is not about military posturing. It is about recognizing a new reality in galactic affairs. Humanity is here. We are established across Council space. We control access to precursor technology that could benefit everyone. We can be allies or adversaries. The choice is yours." The debate continued for 6 hours. Conservative delegates demanded military action. Progressive voices argued for negotiation. Economic interests pointed out the cost of removing humans from operations where they had become essential. Military strategists warned that Earth's capabilities were unknown and potentially significant. Finally, Magistrate Tella proposed a compromise. Earth will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. This membership includes full voting rights and participation in governance. The human settlements will be recognized as autonomous colonies with the same status as other member world territories. In exchange, Earth agrees to limit new settlement establishment for a period of 50 years and to share precursor technology discoveries with the broader Council. James considered the offer. It was better than expected. Provisional membership was a face-saving measure for the Council, but it included all practical benefits of full membership. The limitation on new settlements was acceptable since the existing ones could expand without restriction. And sharing precursor technology would actually serve Earth's interests by making the Council dependent on human expertise for accessing and using it. Earth accepts the Council's proposal, James declared, subject to ratification by our government and formal treaty documentation. Vornik's form seemed to deflate. The Chancellor had fought to maintain Council authority and had been forced to grant concessions that transformed the entire structure of galactic power. The treaty will be prepared. This assembly is adjourned. As delegates filed out of the chamber, Magistrate Tella approached James privately. Her crystalline form pulsed with colors that suggested weary acceptance. "You outplayed us completely. From the moment you delivered criminals as tribute, this outcome was inevitable." "Not inevitable," James corrected. "Carefully orchestrated. But yes, we planned for this from the beginning. What happens now? Now we build. The settlements expand. Human presence in Council space becomes permanent and integrated. We share discoveries and technologies. We contribute to galactic civilization. And in 50 years, when the provisional period ends, full permanent membership will be automatic because we will have proven our value beyond any possible doubt." Tella's light dimmed. "You have changed the galaxy, Ambassador. The old order where the Council controlled all aspects of galactic civilization is finished. Other young species will see what humanity achieved and demand similar treatment. Good. Competition drives innovation. Diversity strengthens civilization. The Council's era of unchallenged authority was always temporary. Better it ends through negotiation than through war." On Drakmar, Marcus received word of the treaty through encrypted channels from Earth. He gathered the settlement's leadership, council in the main precursor chamber. Surrounded by technology that proved humanity's unique position, "We have won," Marcus announced. "Earth is now a council member. Our settlements are recognized as legitimate colonies. Everything we have built is protected under galactic law." Elena raised a concern. "The treaty limits new settlement establishment for 50 years. That restricts our expansion. It restricts new settlements. It says nothing about existing settlement. Expanding their territory. We can grow these colonies into major population centers. We can extend our infrastructure across entire regions. And in 50 years, when the limitation expires, humanity will be positioned to establish new settlements from a position of overwhelming strength." "What about the precursor technology sharing requirement?" Marcus smiled. "We will share, generously, but we will remain the experts in accessing and using it. The council species still cannot activate most precursor systems directly. They will need human technicians, human researchers, human expertise. We trade access to technology for economic and political leverage." The council members nodded. They understood. Earth had not just gained membership in the council. They had positioned humanity as indispensable to galactic civilization's future development. The tribute that was meant to subordinate had become the foundation of power. On Nex, Thomas Morgan gathered his community to share the news. Families who had built homes on the floating platforms. Children who had been born on this world and knew no other. Workers who had transformed from criminals into productive citizens of a new society. "We are no longer tribute workers," Thomas told them. "We are colonists. This world is our home. The structures we built are our cities. The lives we have created are recognized and protected. Everything we sacrificed, every risk we took, every challenge we overcame has led to this moment." Cheers erupted across the settlement. People who had been outcasts on Earth were now founders of a legitimate human presence on an alien world. Their children would grow up as citizens of both Earth and Nex. Bridges between species and cultures dot in her office on Earth. Director Kim reviewed the final treaty documents with satisfaction. The plan conceived 5 years ago had succeeded beyond the most optimistic projections. The council had demanded tribute and received an occupation. They had sought to humble humanity and instead elevated Earth to full participation in galactic governance. "What is our next priority?" asked one of her senior advisors. "Consolidation. We have 47 settlements across council space. Each one needs infrastructure development, population growth, and economic strengthening. In 2 generations, these colonies will be major population centers that rival anything the council species had established. That is when humanity truly becomes the dominant force in this region of space. Some council species will resist. Let them. We have legal recognition now. We have precursor technology they need. We have proven our value. Resistance will accomplish nothing except weakening those who attempt it." The advisor smiled. The council thought they were dealing with a primitive species. They never realized they were facing humans. Kim nodded. That was their fundamental error. They judged us by our technology level and ignored our history. They forgot that humans survive by being adaptable, aggressive, and relentless. We turned their punishment into our victory. And now the galaxy belongs to us as much as it belongs to them. The tribute period officially ended 6 months later. The Treaty of Integration was signed in a ceremony attended by representatives from every council species. Earth's flag flew alongside the council banner. Ambassador Holland took his seat in the council chamber, not as a petitioner, but as an equal, and across council space. In settlements that had begun as prison camps, but had transformed into thriving colonies, 30,000 humans continued the work of building humanity's future among the stars. The criminals who were meant to be victims had become victors. The tribute that was meant to subordinate had become the foundation of power. And the galaxy would never be the same. The treaty signing ceremony occurred on the Council's central diplomatic station, a structure so massive it had its own gravity. The main hall could hold 10,000 beings comfortably. Today it was filled to capacity. Representatives from every Council species attended, along with delegations from Earth that included not just diplomats, but also leaders from the human settlements. Marcus Reed stood among the Earth delegation, wearing formal civilian clothes that felt strange after years in mining gear. Beside him were Thomas Morgan from Nex, Nicole Cross from Taraxis, and Anton Volkov from Velner Prime, former criminals now representing legitimate colonies. The irony was not lost on anyone. Chancellor Vornek called the assembly to order. His silver form had taken a configuration that suggested formal dignity rather than the aggressive shapes he had used in past confrontations. We gather to formalize Earth's admission to the Galactic Council as a provisional member. This marks a new chapter in our civilization's history. Ambassador James Holland stepped forward to sign the treaty on behalf of Earth. Director Kim had offered him the honor, recognizing that his diplomatic efforts had made this moment possible. As he placed his signature on the document using both human writing and the holographic seal required by Council protocol, James reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 5 years ago, he had stood in this same chamber facing content threats. Today, he stood as an equal, representing a species that had forced the galaxy's most powerful governing body to acknowledge them through determination and clever exploitation of every advantage. Earth accepts membership in the Galactic Council, James declared. We pledge to contribute to the prosperity and security of all member species. We look forward to building a future of cooperation and mutual benefit. The words were diplomatic formality. Everyone in the chamber understood the real meaning. Humanity had arrived as a major power. The old order was finished. A new era of galactic affairs was beginning. After the ceremony, Marcus found himself cornered by Grax, the Thurin mining supervisor from Drakmer. The massive stone-like being had traveled to the station specifically for this conversation. I wanted to speak with you before you return to your settlement, Grax said through a translator. I have watched what you and your people accomplished. When you first arrived, I thought Earth had sent us criminals who would be nothing but trouble. I was correct about the trouble, but wrong about everything else. Marcus smiled. We did make your life difficult. You transformed my operation. Production increased beyond anything I thought possible. You discovered resources and technology that had been beneath our feet for millennia. You proved that humans are capable of extraordinary things when given opportunity. We proved that criminals are still humans. We made mistakes on Earth, broke laws, hurt people. But that did not mean we lacked value. It meant we needed different circumstances to show what we could achieve. Grax made a gesture that Marcus had learned indicated respect. I have been authorized to offer you a permanent position as Director of Advanced Operations for all Drakmer mining. This would make you one of the highest-ranking humans in Council corporate structure. Will you accept? Marcus considered the offer. It was tempting. Power, legitimacy, wealth. Everything his criminal past had denied him. But he looked around the ceremony hall at the other settlement leaders. They had built something more valuable than corporate positions. They had built communities. I appreciate the offer, but I must decline. My place is with the settlement. We are still building our society. My people need leadership more than I need status. I understand. The offer remains open should you change your mind. After Grax departed, Nicole approached with Thomas. Anton is negotiating a trade agreement between Velner and Nex, she said. Apparently, our settlements are starting to do business with each other, independent of Earth's government. Is that a problem? Marcus asked. Not for us. But Earth's bureaucrats are nervous about colonies operating too independently. They want to maintain central control. Thomas laughed. They sent us here as disposable labor, and now worry we might become too successful. The contradiction is amusing. We need to establish clear relationships, Marcus said. The settlements should maintain loyalty to Earth, while also having autonomy to govern ourselves. We are not just extensions of Earth's government. We are new societies that happen to be populated by humans. Over the following months, this tension between the settlements and Earth's central authority became a major issue. The colonies had been founded by people who had already demonstrated their willingness to violate rules. Now they were being asked to follow directives from a government on a world most of them would never see again. On Nex, Thomas faced this directly when Earth's colonial administration sent orders limiting the settlement's fishing operations. The directive claimed environmental concerns, but Thomas knew the real reason. The settlement's fishing fleet was competing too, effectively, with corporate interests that had political connections on Earth. He called a community assembly in the central plaza of the floating city. Over 1,000 people gathered, families who had made Nex their permanent home. Earth's government wants to restrict our operations, Thomas announced. They claim environmental protection, but the real issue is economic competition. The question before us is simple. Do we obey directives from Earth, or do we assert our right to self-governance? We are a recognized colony, someone shouted from the crowd. The treaty gives us autonomy in local matters. The treaty also maintains Earth's authority over major policy decisions, another voice countered. If we defy them, they could revoke our charter. Thomas let the debate continue for an hour before calling for order. I propose ahem. Idle path. We comply with the letter of Earth's directive, but not its spirit. We reduce operations in the specific area they mentioned, while expanding in other regions they did not address. We demonstrate respect for central authority while protecting our interests. The Assembly voted to accept his proposal. It was a compromise that satisfied no one completely, but allowed the settlement to continue, growing while maintaining formal loyalty to Earth. Similar compromises occurred across the human colonies as settlers learned to navigate between their independence and their connection to Earth. The real transformation occurred with the precursor technology. As human settlements expanded their excavations and activated more ancient systems, they discovered something that changed everything. The precursors had not just left technology. They had left a network that connected across space in ways conventional physics could not explain. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, who had become the leading human expert on precursor science, made the breakthrough on Drakmer. She was working in the main repository chamber when she noticed energy patterns that suggested connection to other sites. Following the patterns, she activated what appeared to be a communication system. Suddenly, she could see holographic representations of every other activated precursor site. 74 locations across council space, all connected through some kind of quantum entanglement network that allowed instantaneous communication, regardless of distance. This is incredible, she breathed. The Council has been using conventional faster-than-light communication that still takes hours or days between distant systems. This network is instantaneous. Marcus, who had been working nearby, understood the implications immediately. This gives us communication capabilities the Council cannot match. We can coordinate across our settlements in real time. We can share information, make decisions, respond to threats faster than anyone else in the galaxy. We need to keep this secret for now. If the Council learns we have instantaneous communication, they will demand access. The treaty requires us to share precursor discoveries. We will share, eventually, but we can control the timeline. We reveal capabilities when it serves our interests, not theirs. Over the next year, the precursor communication network became the hidden foundation of human power in council space. Settlement leaders could coordinate in real time. Information flowed instantly between colonies. When one settlement faced challenges, others could provide immediate advice and support. The council species noticed that human colonies seemed unusually coordinated, but could not determine how. Their intelligence services searched for conventional communication networks and found nothing. The quantum entanglement technology was completely beyond their detection capabilities. This advantage became critical when the first major challenge to the treaty occurred. A conservative faction within the council, led by the Thakarone delegate, attempted to introduce legislation that would have restricted human settlement expansion and required all precursor sites to be placed under council oversight rather than human control. Ambassador Holland learned of the proposal through normal diplomatic channels, but through the precursor network, the settlement leaders had been coordinating their response for weeks before the council even announced the legislation. When the proposal came to a vote, humans were ready with counter-arguments, economic data, and legal analysis that dismantled every point. More importantly, several council species that benefited from human discoveries and economic activity had been quietly convinced to oppose the legislation. The vote failed by a significant margin. The conservative faction's attempt to roll back human gains had instead demonstrated how thoroughly integrated humanity had become in galactic affairs. In the aftermath, Magistrate Tella requested a private meeting with James Holland. They met in a secure conference room on the diplomatic station. Tella's crystalline form pulsed with colors that James had learned indicated thoughtful concern. "You have been playing a deeper game than we realized," Tella said without preamble. "The coordination between your settlements, the timing of your responses, the precision of your political maneuvering. You have capabilities we have not detected." James considered denying it, but recognized that Tella was too intelligent to be misled. "We have discovered communication capabilities in the precursor network. We were planning to share this with the council when the technology was better." "Understood," meaning when you had fully exploited its advantages. "First," meaning when we had ensured that sharing it would benefit everyone without compromising our security. The conservative faction's legislation proved we still face those who want to subordinate humanity. We need some capabilities that remain exclusively ours. Tella's form shifted through several colors. "I understand your caution, but this secrecy creates exactly the fear you seek to avoid. Council species worry about what else humans might be hiding. That fear drives actions like the conservative legislation. Then help us address it. You have always been the most reasonable voice in the council. Guide us toward the right balance between protecting ourselves and building trust." "Very well. I propose that you reveal the communication network within the next year. Use the announcement to demonstrate goodwill. In exchange, I will work to ensure the council responds with cooperation rather than demands for control." James agreed. It was time. The settlements were strong enough now that revealing the communication network would not endanger them, and demonstrating willingness to share would strengthen Earth's position for future negotiations. The announcement came 6 months later at a full council assembly. Dr. Warren presented the discovery with technical details that fascinated the science-oriented species. James framed it as evidence of humanity's commitment to sharing precursor knowledge for the benefit of all. The conservative faction tried to demand immediate access, but moderate voices prevailed. A joint research initiative was established to study the network and develop ways for council species to interface with it. The initiative became a model for human council cooperation. Human experts worked alongside alien scientists. Discoveries were shared openly, and humanity's reputation as valuable members of galactic civilization was reinforced. 5 years after the treaty signing, the human settlements had grown into major population centers. Nex hosted over 15,000 people. Drakmar had 12,000. Taraxis, Velnir, and dozens of other colonies each held populations in the thousands. Children who had been born in these settlements were now entering schools that taught both human and alien knowledge. Mixed marriages between humans and compatible alien species were becoming common. A new generation was growing up that saw themselves as citizens of the galaxy rather than just representatives of Earth. Marcus Reed, now in his 50s, stood in the observation deck of Drakmar's main settlement hub and watched shuttles move between the surface and orbital platforms. The mining operation had expanded to include manufacturing facilities that produced goods for trade across council space. The settlement generated more economic activity than some entire council member worlds. Elena joined him, her hair now gray, but her mind still sharp. The council is discussing extending your settlement's charter to include 3 additional continents on Drakmar. They have finally accepted that fighting human expansion is futile. We proved what Earth's government always believed, that humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our military. It is our adaptability, our willingness to go anywhere, try anything, survive conditions that would break other species. The Council wanted to use that strength for their own purposes. Instead, we used it to build our own power. Do you ever regret it? The crime that brought you here? Marcus considered the question. I regret the people I hurt, the lives I destroyed. Those actions were wrong, and I have never denied that. But if I had not committed those crimes, I would never have been sent here. I would never have discovered precursor technology or led this settlement. My mistakes led to something greater than I could have achieved through legitimate paths. The universe has a strange sense of justice. The Council certainly learned that. They thought they were punishing Earth by demanding tribute. Instead, they created the conditions for humanity's rise. They made the classic mistake of any established power. They assumed the rules that had always worked would continue working forever. They did not anticipate that a younger species might see those rules differently, might find gaps and opportunities in systems designed to be controlling. Elena smiled. And now those systems are changing to accommodate us. Earth will receive full permanent council membership next year, when the provisional period ends. Our settlements have recognition equal to any member world territories. Precursor technology is being studied by joint teams. Everything the Council tried to prevent has happened. Not everything. We still face resistance from conservative factions. There are species that will never accept humans as equals. But those voices grow quieter each year as our value becomes undeniable. On Earth, Director Kim prepared for retirement after 15 years, leading the diplomatic and intelligence efforts that had elevated humanity to galactic status. Her successor, a younger officer named David Park, sat acros. From her receiving final briefings. The settlements are stable and growing, Kim explained. Our council membership is secure. Precursor technology has given us capabilities that ensure we remain relevant for centuries. But the real achievement is less tangible. We changed how the galaxy thinks about power. How so? Park asked. The council system was built on the assumption that power came from age, from being an established civilization with millennia of history. We prove that power comes from adaptability, innovation, and the willingness to exploit opportunities others overlook. The criminals we sent as tribute became the foundation of a new understanding of what makes a species successful in galactic affairs. There are still challenges. The conservative faction, resource competition, cultural tensions between settlements and Earth. There will always be challenges. But we have proven we can overcome them. The galaxy is no longer divided between the Council and everyone else. It is a more complex place with multiple centers of power. Earth is one of those centers now. That is the legacy I leave you." Park nodded. "We went from being a species that barely qualified for contact to being a full council member in less than a decade. Historians will study this period for centuries. Let them, as long as they understand the real lesson, that humanity succeeds not by following the rules others create, but by finding our own path. We took punishment and turned it into triumph. We took subordination and transformed it into partnership. And we did it by being exactly what we are: stubborn, clever, adaptable, and utterly unwilling to accept anyone's definition of our limitations. In the council chamber, now reorganized to permanently include Earth's delegation, Chancellor Vornik called a session to order. His metallic form had settled into configurations. That suggested acceptance rather than the resistance he had shown years earlier. Council recognizes Ambassador Holland for a special announcement, Vornak said. James stood at the human platform, no longer isolated, but surrounded by allied delegations. "I am pleased to announce that Earth's government has authorized the establishment of 5 new colonies in previously unclaimed systems. These will be the first settlements established outside Council territory, representing humanity's expansion into unexplored regions of space." The announcement was met with some grumbling from conservative members, but general acceptance from most of the Council. The 50-year limitation on new settlements within Council territory did not restrict human expansion elsewhere, and everyone recognized that humanity was ready to grow beyond the boundaries that had contained them. Additionally, James continued, the existing settlements have formed a colonial council to coordinate their activities and represent their interests in council affairs. While maintaining loyalty to Earth, the colonies seek recognition as semi-autonomous entities with the right to self-governance in local matters. This announcement generated more controversy. The idea of human settlements operating independently was concerning to some council members. But Magistrate Tella spoke in support, arguing that recognizing colonial autonomy would actually strengthen stability by giving settlements official channels for their ambitions. After hours of debate, the Council voted to recognize the Colonial Council as an advisory body with representation rights in certain matters. It was another step toward the full independence that the settlements would eventually achieve, but framed in ways that maintained formal structures and avoided appearing as a threat to Council authority. As the session ended, James reflected on how far humanity had come, from a species facing punishment to a power-shaping galactic policy, from tribute workers to colony founders, from outsiders to full participants in the grand project of interstellar civilization. The transformation had taken less than a decade, but its effects would echo across centuries. On Nex, Thomas Morgan's daughter celebrated her 10th birthday. She had been born on this water world and had never seen Earth except in recordings. For her, Nex was home. Earth was the distant place where her grandparents lived. The galaxy was not something humanity was joining. It was something her generation was born into. Watching her play with friends, both human and alien, Thomas understood that this was the real victory. Not treaties or territory, but the fact that human children could grow up seeing themselves as citizens of the galaxy, rather than visitors in someone else's space. The tribute that was meant to humble had become the foundation of this future. The criminals who were sent as punishment had built the cities where these children learned and played. The settlements that began as prison camps had transformed into homes for a new generation. And across council space, in 47 colonies on worlds humans had never expected to walk, the work continued. Building, discovering, learning, growing. Proving every day that humanity's place in the galaxy was not something granted by others, but something created by human determination, ingenuity, and the absolute refusal to accept limitations. The Galactic Council had demanded tribute. Earth had sent its worst criminals. And from that unlikely beginning, A new era of galactic civilization had emerged. An era where humans stood as equals among the stars, where the old order had given way to new possibilities, and where the future belonged to those bold enough to seize it. The tribute had backfired beyond the Council's worst nightmares, and humanity's greatest triumph had begun with the people everyone else had given up on. The criminals, the outcasts, the ones who refused to follow rules. They had been sent to serve and instead had conquered, not through military force, but through being exactly what they had always been. Survivors who turned every disadvantage into opportunity and every punishment into power. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how humanity wanted it. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.